All right, we are live.
All right, well, my name is Adam Zimkowski. I want to thank everybody for joining us. This is Councilmember Sawant's community prep meeting. We are going to, just in about 2.5 hours, give public testimony to the Seattle City Council, explaining why they should sign on to the letter from Councilmember Sawant's office and our movement that really demands that Biden and Congress take a stand against the brutality of the Israeli state towards the people of Gaza, and takes a step and ends the military support for the billions of dollars of weapons from US taxpayer dollars that go towards these bombings. We want to prepare to give powerful public comment. We're also in just a few moments going to hear from Jonathan Rosenblum in our office, an update on the discussion that has just happened moments ago during Seattle City Council briefing, where they discussed whether or not they would be signing on to our movement's letter. We're going to hear about that as a way to prepare our public comment for this afternoon. But before that, as those who have seen these community prep meetings know, we're going to begin by going to Nick Jones in our office, who's going to show us step-by-step how we can sign on for public comment, which we're going to be doing together in just 27 minutes. So go ahead, Nick, take it from here, and then we'll get to the rest of our agenda.
Thanks so much, Adam. One moment here, everyone. All right, hopefully folks can see my screen now. And hopefully it's a familiar screen if you've given public comment before. But to be able to speak to the City Council on this really vital issue today at 2 p.m., you're going to want to first find this this page. It should be pretty easy. Just in your browser, you should just be able to type in Seattle Public Comment. It should be the very first link. This .gov URL here, public comment. Just click on that. And as we go through today's community meeting, I would urge folks to keep this page open. Right at 12 o'clock, there's going to be a form that goes live right here, where you'll be able to enter in information to sign up for public comment. So as we get closer to 12 o'clock, we'll hopefully all come back here together, sign up as a movement, so we can all bring our voice into City Hall virtually today. So that's it. We'll kick it back to Adam. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Nick. And I'm actually hearing that Seattle City Council is about to discuss and about to vote on, whether or not they're gonna sign on to the letter. Once that takes place, we can actually hear from Councilmember Sawant about that, and also just get a political update again, so that we can, regardless of how the discussion goes, we can celebrate the fact that our movement's voice has been critical in pressuring City Council to take a stand on this issue. But then beyond that, of course, people are likely aware that in recent days there has been a ceasefire, which has given a respite to the people of Gaza, who of course for several days were facing bombardment. And that ceasefire is not the result of a coming to grips by either the Israeli state or even forces in U.S. imperialism about the wrongness of that approach, but rather the result of a movement. Of course, the courage of the people in Gaza, but also worldwide. We've seen ordinary people, working people, unions, left political voices taking a stand. As
just so you know, Councilmember Sawant was just able to join us.
Okay, wonderful. And so, yeah, this movement has led to this stuff, and we can right now hear from Councilmember Sawant a political update and essentially a report from how things went during council briefing just now. Councilmember Sawant, are you ready to join us?
Yeah, I thank you, Adam. I won't be able to stay for very long, but I thought I should come and report on what has happened so far. And just to add to what you were saying, Adam, after our office and the community that joined us in writing this letter after we issued our initial draft last week. That was last Monday morning. We heard from the Democrats on the city council that they were not ready to sign the letter, and they also unfortunately made some dishonest remarks about how the letter was supposedly not powerful enough, even though in reality the reason they were reluctant to sign it was very powerful and straightforward in exposing both the role of the Israeli state and also the role of the US state in aiding and abetting the atrocities by the Israeli state against the Palestinian people. The Democratic City Council members also insinuated that our letter had not had community input, even though they knew full well that many community organizations, and including labor unions like UAW 4121, supported the letter and had written to the city council urging that they sign it. But nonetheless, we agreed, that my office and we agreed that we will send our letter, the original version that we developed with the community, to President Biden and US Congress last week, which we did. But at the same time, that we looked forward to working with all council members to get a version ready that incorporates whatever edits they may have, as long as the essential message of the letter, which is the demand, the main objective of this letter is not just to opine in general about the situation in Israel, but specifically about demanding that President Biden and the US Congress publicly condemn the Israeli state's atrocities against Palestine, and also that the US government put an immediate stop to military aid, weapons sales, and diplomatic cover to the Israeli state's atrocities. And what I had said last week was that as long as that essential demand was not watered down, we welcome edits, even though some of the edits may not be something that we prefer. And it was good that council members Herbold and Mosqueda did send substantial edits. My office has accepted all of the edits. As I said, some of the edits are not to our preference, but the essential demand in the letter remains unchanged. That's why, in the interest of collaboration, we incorporated every single edit from the Democratic council members. So don't let anybody tell you that we and our Socialist Council office and our movement is refusing to collaborate. Of course, on a principled basis, we absolutely want to build as much unity as possible. The kind of unity we are not willing to build is unity with the ruling class that actually is not in the interest of oppressed communities like our Palestinian people, and against the interests of working people. And so we carried out all that process. And what just happened only minutes ago is that only council members Herbold and Mosqueda signed on to the letter. And so it's basically 3 council members who have signed on to the letter. Council members Strauss, Lewis, Peterson refused to sign on to it. And stunningly, Councilmember Morales, who was at the meeting, suddenly disappeared from the Zoom call during the vote on the letter. It's just absolutely, I'm speechless by what just happened with Councilmember Morales actually disappearing from the Zoom call. I cannot, I'm just stunned by this cowardice. And I really think that it's our movement's task to make sure that the self-described quote unquote progressive council members, Morales, Lewis, and Strauss, hear from us loud and clear that this was shameful, whether it's disappearing from the Zoom call or declining to sign the letter. Either way, this is really bad. Just to show you how much support this letter had from the community, I wanted to quote from a letter we just received this morning from Rabbi David Bassier of the Kadima Reconstructionist Community, a progressive Jewish congregation. Rabbi David wrote a moving letter to the city council urging them to support our movement's letter. And we will share the full letter in its entirety in a mass email. And also we will post it on our city council office blog. But just for now, I wanted to share a short quote from the letter. Quote, "The Jewish people are who I have directly dedicated my life and family. And today I am asking for your help. The Jewish leadership of the state of Israel needs outside intervention to end its heartbreakingly brutal and ongoing occupation of the West Bank and East Jerusalem, its siege of the Gaza Strip, and its military-backed continued settlement project. Please help us say not in our name. This letter could be a historic step in the direction of holding my people lovingly accountable a step we sadly need for our own sake as much as for the sake of the millions of Palestinian lives that have been ended, limited, ruined, and traumatized on behalf of cynical right-wing Western ideologies such as Christian Zionism, Jewish Zionism, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, and white supremacy, end quote. So this is a letter from Rabbi David. We would not have even got these 2 signatures had it not been for the hundreds of people who spoke up, the thousands of people who attended the protests and the vigil last week, in the last 10 days. It has been extremely crucial. And it's not just Seattle, it's nationwide and across the world. Millions of young people especially are saying, not in our name, and we do not support this. And in fact, we have no more tolerance for this kind of injustice and the brutality that has been directed towards the Palestinian people, and that if you are against oppression here, then you have to be against oppression, period, no matter where in the world it occurs and who is targeted by that oppression. And so I am so, as the feeling with which I feel the cowardice of so many of these Democratic politicians, that is matched by my pride in our community, in our movement, and in the millions of people who have spoken up worldwide against this injustice. And it is that pressure that has forced Congress members to speak up. And so I really wanted to also acknowledge the squad Congress members who have spoken up in a way that a whole generation of politicians hasn't spoken up. That's really a reflection of the pressure that is on politicians right now from ordinary people. And whatever progress we have made to this letter is also a testament to how much progress we have been able to make. Jonathan will share with you more information about what the community did in order to hold council members accountable. That is just really a matter of collective pride for us. And I'll just say lastly, but not least, the ceasefire in Palestine, Israel itself was won not because Benjamin Netanyahu's right-wing regime and his allies in the United States government had a sudden change of heart, but absolutely as a result of mass pressure from working people and youth in the region and internationally, including the courageous one-day general strike by hundreds of thousands of Palestinian workers. So, my friends, we should be really proud of what we have accomplished, but it is absolutely crucial for everybody to speak in public comment. Our work is far from done. Today, our job is to congratulate our office and our movement publicly in public comment for the work that we have done, recognize that it is our Socialist Council office in collaboration with our movement and as part of our movement. We're not collaborating with the movement, we are in the movement, that we have accomplished this together. And also another task we have today is holding those council members accountable. And today, even though they have declined to vote, today our task is to expose that to the light of day, because hardly anybody watched the morning briefing meeting. So it is important that in public comment, we expose what these self-described progressive council members, Lewis, Strauss, and Morales have done, and that we don't agree with that, and that we will continue to call out politicians for their failure to perform their moral and political duty to ordinary working people, the people who have voted for them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Sawant. We're going to hear from Jonathan Rosenblum now. And then after that, we're going to get a little glimpse of this powerful contrast, the courageous fight back of the people in the Gaza, in Gaza, the Palestinian people, and then also throughout the world. But first, Jonathan Rosenblum, also community organizer in Councilmember Sawant's office, tell us a little bit about this local fight back against this brutal attack.
Thanks, Adam, and good to see folks here today on this important day for Palestinian justice. As Shama said, it is really the Socialist Council office working as part of our movement, taking a very important step forward here today for justice, not just for Palestinians, but for all oppressed people. And I do want to say I'm very proud of my own rabbi, Rabbi David Bassior, for stepping up and demonstrating tremendous leadership with his letter this morning. We have our council office, along with other council offices, received in the last few days 773 letters in support of this letter. and we received 157 letters opposed to it. So I think for all of you who have written letters, who've encouraged other people to write letters, you've been a part of that. And let's keep moving forward, because that's going to be important. One of the letters that we received this morning actually was directed specifically to Councilmember Tammy Morales in Southeast Seattle. You'll know that Councilmember Morales represents District 2 down here in the Rainier Valley. And this was written by a number of East African community leaders who wrote in part, quote, standing with the Palestinian people means standing with your community. Many of us who are immigrants and refugees know what it's like to live under military oppression. We also know how important it is to have international solidarity in times like these. The Seattle City Council must stand right now as allies with the Palestinians. And these East African leaders said, we have yet to hear your commitment. This is to Tammy Morales. We have yet to hear your commitment to stand with us in the Palestine community by signing Councilmember Sawant's letter. Now, that letter went in this morning, and as you heard from Shama earlier, that Councilmember Morales mysteriously just sort of dropped off the call out of the meeting before the vote happened, and so was not present. Our job at 2 o'clock today during public comment is to hold these so-called progressives accountable and to say, if you want to call yourself a progressive, you must stand with the Palestinian people. You must stand with this letter. And really, by ducking out and by not signing the letter, you're really demonstrating which side you're on. Back to you, Adam.
All right, thank you so much, Jonathan. Yeah, it's also I think it's worth noting as we talk about the 1,000 people that were at the rally, a little over a week ago, and then 300 to 400 at a vigil just a couple of days later on a Tuesday evening. And the fact that this movement has now compelled Councilmembers Mosqueda and Herbold to sign on to a letter that demands President Biden and Congress end this military support, billions of dollars to support these kinds of atrocities. But it does, of course, the cowardice that Shaman noted stand in stark contrast to the protests by the Palestinian people. We have a few, a couple of people who've been active in this, local, a movement against what's going on in Gaza. I want to hear from them right now to talk about, the resistance in Gaza, and then hopefully we'll have time to see some of the pictures from around the world of the fight back of ordinary people against this, and really, just under the idea of solidarity against this oppression, and an injury to one is an injury to all, a real kind of working class approach to fighting back against this injustice. Let's start off by going to Blythe Serrano, who's a social justice activist who's was at the Tuesday vigil and has been participating in this movement. If you could talk a little bit about the fight back, in Gaza, Palestinian people. Blythe, can you take it from here?
Hi, yeah, thank you, Adam, and thank you to everybody who's listening right now. I want to draw attention to an event that was already touched on by some of our previous speakers, which was the courageous one-day general strike on Tuesday that was carried out by hundreds of thousands of Palestinian workers in Israel, occupied East Jerusalem, Gaza, and the West Bank. This was intended to show a united condemnation of the ongoing bombardment and brutal policies by the Israeli regime against the people in Gaza. And this was a really historic event because it was the first general strike by Palestinian workers since 1936. And the official strike statement said that it was a protest against Israeli aggression against our people in the Gaza Strip, Jerusalem, Al-Aqsa Mosque, and Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood. And we really must recognize that more of this kind of action is what's going to be needed to end this conflict in Israel-Palestine once and for all. It was really instrumental in making this ceasefire that went into effect on Friday happen. But we do also need to recognize that the violence that's being perpetrated by the Israeli state is unfortunately, not going to end with this ceasefire, just as it didn't start at the beginning of this month. On Friday, which is the very same day that the ceasefire went into effect, Israeli security forces used stun grenades and rubber bullets against Palestinians outside the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. And, this form of violence shows a striking parallel between the violence that's being instigated by the US ruling class against the Black Lives Matter movement this past summer, including here in Seattle. And we really shouldn't be surprised by this. US police departments and the Israeli Defense Forces have long-standing relationships through what's known as the Deadly Exchange. And if anybody who's watching this morning's council briefing, some council members argued that it wasn't the city council's place to comment on international issues like this. But when our own police department is learning how to most effectively repress movements like BLM from the Israeli state forces themselves, which are currently inflicting violence on ordinary Palestinians, probably as we speak, it's really clear that if violence and racism cross borders, solidarity must too. So now I'm going to pass things back over to Adam. Thank you.
No, thank you so much, Blythe. And let's go over just directly to Sasha Selmer, and we'll see some images of this fight back, and hopefully we'll get a chance also to hear from Bia Lacombe, another activist who's been participating in these movements. Go ahead, Sasha.
Yeah. So, just to start off, I went to the vigil here in Seattle, and it was a really moving show of solidarity with several hundred community members. I think Blythe was there as well. And that's just a local example of the movements that have been happening. I want to first highlight that the support from unions here and globally. We've got the United Electrical Workers representing 35,000 members. The UAW 4121, which is a local union representing academic student union employees and postdocs at the University of Washington. And then globally, there's the Irish Congress of Trade Unions representing 800,000 workers, the 1.3 million member Unison Union in the UK, the 5.8 million member Trades Union Congress of the United Kingdom, and the Canadian Labour Congress have all sent out solidarity statements, as well as the News Guild CWA, which came out against the attacks on the Palestinian people, as well as the bombing of the offices of the Associated Press and Al Jazeera. And then on top of that, tens of thousands of demonstrators marched through Britain, Spain, Italy, Iran, Somalia, Australia, France, Germany, the United States, and more. And yeah, if we have just a moment, I can share a screen of some pictures from these protests around the world. We have time for that, Adam? Or yeah, okay, great. I will share that just to give people a real sense of this. So this is in Queens, so here in the US. And then this is in London, really giving you a sense of the scale of these protests. We've got Spain and Somalia. I'm going through it a little quickly, but it's really just to give a sense of just the massive scale of solidarity that's happening all around the world. That's Italy. And back to the beginning here. I'm just going to end my screen share for a moment there. Yeah, really inspiring, shows of solidarity and powerful. It was the pressure of the courageous general strike by hundreds of thousands of Palestinian workers that Blythe talked about, alongside this extensive solidarity from unions and protests globally, which that pressure, which won the ceasefire. And yeah, we should really celebrate this victory while also recognizing that the Israeli ruling class's violence against Palestinians didn't begin 11 days ago, and it's not going to end with this ceasefire. We're definitely going to need to continue these types of solidarity actions, like sending this letter to Biden and US Congress, as well as, gathering more support from unions and community organizations, making demands on our government, like our letter does, as well as protesting in the streets. Yeah, so solidarity, and I'll pass it back to you, Adam.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sasha. And yeah, it is really, it's inspiring. And of course, at the same time, it's a sobering to think about the devastation that that had to occur. But of course, the international demonstration of solidarity does give hope and is the basis upon which you can actually imagine a lasting peace. And precisely why we want our movement's voice to be heard at 2 p.m. today, to build off the letter that now 3 council members will be sending to increase that political pressure on the Democrats to put an end to the Democratic administration's financial support for the military, bombing and the weapons that are used by the Israeli state to attack the people of Gaza. We're going to hear from Nick Jones right now, who can talk about how we're going to sign up and also go into some of the ways that we can most effectively give comment to City Council. So Nick, if you could take that, and everybody who's watching, again, you've most likely already done this before, but if you're doing this for the first time, you should, now's the time when you follow along with Nick, open up the tabs, because in just a couple of minutes, the public comment window will be opening up and we'll want to sign up to testify to City Council. So go ahead, take it from here, Nick.
All right, thank you, Adam. If folks can see my screen, I'm just going to be refreshing the public comment sign up page. So right when it goes live, we can all sign up together. And like Adam was talking about, there are a few things that we can do to really make our public comment as powerful as possible. One, as Sasha was highlighting, the strength of organized working class people can make a huge difference in creating change. And if you're part of an organization, community, a union, a group, anything that you can highlight as, being a member of a wider organized kind of group of folks that want to see the end of perpetual violence in Gaza, you should definitely bring that in. Saying your name when you get there, but if you're part of an organization, and then also really crucially, saying, thanking Councilmember Sawant and the Socialist City Council office can also put serious pressure on the council. It shows them that folks are paying attention, that they know who's fighting for them, that our movement sees what's going on in the council and the dynamics, and can also generally just puts significant pressure on them to try to get on the right side of things. Generally you'll have probably about 1 minute to give public comment. So folks kind of thinking that through, keeping comments concise, but you can fit it a lot in 1 moment, bringing in things like the powerful community letters that we've had the opportunity to hear highlighted. Your personal stories, if you've been to any of the protests, what that meant, bringing in kind of like our Councilmember Sawant and Jonathan were talking about, the experiences at today's council briefing, where we saw council members really shamefully try to do everything to get away from taking a stance on this issue when urgent international solidarity is needed. Those are all things that I think we absolutely need to bring into the meeting today, and folks should be thinking through for their public comment. There's some tips that I try to keep in mind in encouraging folks to speak, but definitely, use your own words. I think it's crucial that our movement's voice is at all of these meetings, that the city council briefing or the things they do in the morning, they generally expect people to not be paying attention, to not know what gets said at those meetings. And kind of bring up that our movement is involved, we understand what's going on, that it's live, that we understand and demand that the council act on this. That's can be incredibly powerful and really is our duty here to do. So hopefully everyone's form is live now. Just want to fill this out in your entirety. I'll do it in kind of a way, filling out my name, Nick Jones. You really want to make sure that you put your email address that you have access to right here. That's going to be the email address that the link is sent to you to get on the Zoom call to give public comment at 2 p.m. So certainly make sure that that is a working email address you have easy access to. The number, you'll put in the last 5 digits here, and that will be also how you'll be found in the Zoom call to give public comments. So make sure that accurately reflects your phone, the one that you're going to be calling with, so you can most easily give comment right at 2. And then, yeah, click this. For the agenda item, you can really put anything. I like to kind of put in just kind of what we're talking about, even if you know that even if we don't end up getting to be able to speak during public comment, being able to put in kind of what you want to say just here, also, you know, able to get the movement or message across and let council know that our movement is paying attention. Hit submit. You should get an email, and you should be good to give public comment right at 2 p.m. Thanks everyone. Look forward to hearing all your voices today, and appreciate you all joining us here in solidarity.
All right, I think on that note, we can, just to reiterate, thank you everybody for joining us, and really look forward to hearing your voice at the 2 p.m. Seattle City Council meeting. And we really hope that this community prep was helpful in providing that political context and kind of motivation and impetus, as we see on the one hand the cowardice of certain Democrats on the council, and on the other hand the courage of the movement and the fighters for social justice throughout the world. And really appreciate so much your willingness to take up this and help us push forward this letter so that we can then use it to build the movement. So thank you again, and I look forward to hearing from you at 2 p.m. Solidarity.